Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I'm going to be working on a Bass Pro reel. A lot of folks often wonder where Bass Pros are made and what they are and who manufactures them behind the scenes, and I'm not quite sure I have an answer for you on that. This is a Bass Pro Extreme, and I pulled out this one. It's not the same size at all, but this is a USA reel. It's exactly what it's called, US reel. And these are known. I like this one. It's a long caster, short, narrow spool, wide for good capacity. And I'm wondering if the folks that make this in China also make this, because it's kind of the same idea. Even though it's a smaller size, we have the high line capacity. This holds 150 yards of 4-pound test. You have that broad spool, narrow channel. And this is the Bass Pro Extreme, and 10 size, so you can get the idea that they're similar in nature. They're both made in China. Bass Pro doesn't make their own reels. They go to a manufacturing site, whoever that site may be, and they order in quantity for them. And we'll take this apart. If you happen to have one of these, you'll see how to tune it up. If you're interested in purchasing one of these, you'll see how it's made. And if you just want to learn a little bit more about this reel, then you'll see that as well. So let's get started. I get started by removing the exterior parts. Now, most of the time I tell you to go pull a schematic for the reel. In this case, I don't believe one of those is available unless you happen to have this reel and you bought it new and the schematic came with it. So I'm going to kind of play this one by ear, but if I get into trouble, then I may just go to reference that US reel, because there's a possibility that it kind of looks the same inside. I've taken the spool off. You'll notice I just put it into a parts tray. I recommend parts trays as a way to keep track of the parts that you take off. It's for me, it's a great organization thing. I've been using them for years. They're just the bottom of milk jugs, and other folks have different things. I just got a comment earlier that said they use little paper cups and they put their screws into those cups. Other people use egg trays to keep the sequence of the parts that they took off. To me, one centralized place is just kind of the way I work, I guess. All right, there's a shim washer and a click washer. I take those off of the spool. Then we can remove the little holding screw here. And that looks like I need a micro screwdriver for it, so let's take the micro screwdriver out. And that'll allow you to get the cap off of the tie-down cap off. Easier said than done sometimes. There you go. And then we can get to the nut that's holding the rotor down. This one looks like an 11 size maybe. This is a metric 11 if you're playing along and trying to get that done. There you go. All right. And this one comes off in the traditional left counterclockwise threading. And I'm going to pull the rotor off. Also easier said than done. There we go. And we have a bearing, a little cap behind the bearing. I'm assuming this is instant anti-reverse, so we've got an anti-reverse hiding behind it. And I'm just a curious kind of guy, so we're going to take that cap off and just see what that setup is there. Now, this is nice design here. I give credit where credit is due. This is a watertight design. This is like a plastic cap, but the cap doesn't stop at the top here. It runs all the way down to the bottom. So if this is taking water in through these slotted holes, the water is actually bouncing off this and coming and running out the side. So credit due. Like I said, I haven't had this reel open, haven't seen it before. I like the design on that one, and I'm going to give kudos out to whoever did the design there. The biggest problem you have with top drag reels, and the biggest problem in general with reels, is that water intrusion. Particularly if you're using it in a saltwater environment, if you get water in the reel and that salt water dries, or the sand that comes along with it, micro sand. If you're out surf fishing and that stuff dries, it's nothing but bad news for fishing reels. Okay, the collar came off. Underneath we have that shield. Then we have the instant anti-reverse setup. That's a collar and a bearing. So it'll hold down. Here's your instant anti-reverse. A couple of washers underneath, and the pinion gear. So we were able to take everything out by just removing those 3 screws. So while we got that out, let's go ahead and take a brush and some fishing reel grease, because this is dry. We're going to put the grease on there. Now, if that wasn't dry, if we found that there was all kinds of dirt and old grease and grime and junk, then what you would like to do there for sure is to clean it up before you apply the grease. Okay, the order that came back then was the anti-reverse slides on top of that. There's a little plastic washer on both sides of that instant anti-reverse there. Then we had the collar, which went upside down. Then we had our bearing, and that collar is going to, let's do this backwards, put the bearing on next. That goes over the collar. While we got the bearing out, let's throw some oil on there. Then we can put the collar. Now the collar's 2 ways. There's a lip on that collar, so that's the lip that's going to hold the bearing down. Then we have that little shim washer that went on the top there. So that's your sandwich of gears that just came out of there. I'm going to put that right back on and in. Give it a crank, make sure that we've got this pretty much set the right way. And we can put that overall shield back on. I'm just kind of noticing where the little tag ends are here. And we can put our tie down, and our tie down goes, there's an indent in that tie down that goes upside down here. And you want to align those to the 3 screw holes and reinstall those screws that we took out. That's why they were laying on the desk and not on the in the parts tray, because I know I was just going to take this out, show everybody. We wound up taking it out, doing some top end maintenance there, putting the alright, we're not lined up here. So there's a stagger in these holes. So we got to get that stagger correct. It's not a true triangle there. So I'm going to rotate that till we see all 3 holes come up. There we go. Bingo. So a lot of times these things are offset. Just the nature of the beast. There may be a throw arm in a way, like a reverse override switch or something else, and they need to stagger the screws on it. So pay attention, and eventually you will get it lined up. I just did one the other day on the instant anti-reverse for a Shimano reel that somebody had asked about, and when I took the collar off of that one, not only did it have offsets, but it had a front side and a back side. So if you would put it on upside down, you could not line up the teeth properly. Doesn't seem to be the case here. So done there. Let's take the 3 of these screws out to get the case off and go underneath. We're going to take the handle off. The first thing you want to do is turn the handle. If the handle is turning the knob or screw on this side, oh, that's on tight. If it's turning that, then you have a through screw and a handle screw kind of a thing, and what you want to do there is pull this cap screw off first. If that cap screw or cap was not moving, then you would have a handle, for the most part, that screws into the main gear as opposed to goes through the main gear. But yeah, so you would take that off by cranking in the clockwise direction. But if you were finding yourself in a situation where you were cranking and it didn't seem to be any give, take that cap off, because there may be hiding a screw back there. It's not common, but it's not uncommon either. Okay, we're going to take the screw out of the bump guard here. There's usually a screw hiding underneath there, and sure enough there is. These I'm just going to lay on the desk. And first thing I notice is that the case screw under here is smaller than the other three. So that'll tell us that that's where it's got to go back. Then we have 3 screws that appear to be the same size, but we're going to check them as we take them out anyway. And this will give us access to the body of the reel itself. Here's one. So I get a lot of calls. Folks have done this kind of like the way I'm doing it. No schematics, no knowledge of the reel. And then they get stuck on reassembly. One of the things I always suggest, of course it's after the fact, is to take pictures of the reel along the way. That way that if you run into that trouble, you can go back and reference your pictures. And it looks like I should be able to get this off now. I'm going to use a little lever here. I'm thinking maybe this shield here is going to be stopping me. Let's find out. No, it was just it was a matter that it was just dry. Okay, so this is off. Here's another bearing. So this is a nice construction reel. We've seen the bearing up top there. We've seen the bearing down below here, one on each side. We're going to want to move this. I'm moving this now so that I can get to the bottom. This should allow me to get my case out. But I'm noticing that well, that should just come out. There's no probably just stuck on the other side bearing. There we go. Just have to be patient. You have to give it a look. So it allowed us to come out. There's no way we were clearing this screw to take the axle out of that. It was just that the bearing in the back here on this reel was holding the core here, and that's probably just because of what we saw before. There hasn't been any grease in this reel in a while, and some of it is probably dried up. Okay, we did the top already. We don't need to spend much time there. The crosswind gear was working properly, so I'm just going to leave it in place there. Again, this is just a general service. If you want to continue to turn it, grab your pick, turn the crosswind block, check all of the teeth. And they appear to be fine, so let's leave it at that. Check the teeth on the back of your gear here. Again, nothing but this being dry. Other than that, this, I don't know why this reel came into a pile of reels that somebody wanted to sell, but they did, and this one seems like a quality product. Nice design inside here. As I mentioned, I like that shield on the design there. Quality parts for the most part. Got a bearing back there. Let's flood that with oil. It's been a while since it's had a sip of oil, I'm sure, so let's go ahead and do that. We can reinstall that main gear right back where it came from. We had a shim come out of that bearing when we took the side plate off, so let's put that shim back on. We actually had a couple of them. And then let's put that bearing back on, and I'm not sure if I gave it a drink before, so let's give it a drink again. This is why it took a little bit of prying. There's a gasket there, a watertight seal gasket, so that's probably what was pulling it off there. Go ahead and put that back on. Nice and tight. Let's grab the 3 case screws that I have on board here. And you notice I put them to the top. If you do like to spread your parts out across the table, keep them away from the traffic. Like if you're always moving your hands this way, then if you have the screws down below here, there's a good chance that they're going to wind up on the floor or lost. So if you are going to do it like I just did there, just go ahead and get them out of reach where you don't normally have your hand or your arm swing. All right, that's the last of the three big ones. And we know that we have a small one, and there's two small ones, one for the bump cap and one for here. I actually pointed the one, small one, I pointed it up just so I would remember that that's the one that came from the case. So we're going to just take my micro screwdriver for that one, put that back in. Take the bump guard then. Get the right orientation to it, find that other small screw. And the micro screwdriver for that one. And go back to our handle. Now it says 6 ball bearings. I'm guessing one might be in the handle here, so I'm going to just put a drop of oil in here. I'm not sure if it's there or not. Doesn't hurt to put oil on things. If it's not needed, eventually it'll evaporate. If it is needed, then you've taken care of the service. So when in doubt, put some oil there. Like I said, I've flooded these bearings and other things just because they look tired and they look like they were dry when we took the inside of this reel apart. Everything looked dry. Alright, so we're just going to put that handle screw back on. Go grab the rotor here. Nothing much going on there. There's a little dirt in there. Pick that up with your hand. Let's go ahead and load this back on. Grab the nut. If I remember, there was a tie down that went with this nut. So after we tighten our nut here, find that tie down. Try and get it oriented where it matches up. Sometimes it doesn't match up. It means you just need to take your wrench, just tighten it a little bit more until that hole comes into view. You don't want to over tighten these too much. A lot of them I love. They have these cap nuts on them, like a Penn Fierce, where you can't over tighten that cap nut because they have a shoulder on the top of the nut. If you compress things too much, you're going to have performance problems. Alright, that's off. Next up were these two. You have your click washer, and then you have that little shim. And we have our drag stack. So let's go take a look at the drag stack here. We're going to grab a pick, pull that out. You can also use a flat-bladed screwdriver if you need to, but there's various configurations of these hold-down clamps, but they're all pretty much the same. Some of these actually have the ring on them, and some just kind of work in like that. Some have the pentastars. Okay, these are Carbon Tex. Nice. They're Carbon Tex washers. We got one in the seat here. These are quality washers. So this reel overall is a nice quality reel. So it came with Carbon Tex and a round one, then the next washer. Then we go to the eared washer, which fits in the hole. Sometimes it's called a keyed washer. Last of the Carbon Tex. So Carbon Tex don't need to be lubed. They don't need dry grease on them. You can put it on there, but for the most part they tell you just keep them clean as opposed to having to keep them flexible. And then this is always fun with these. You want to make sure that you seat the clip in the hole and then hold that clip because of the tension that's going to be on there. And then just a lot of hand strength is what's required. I like to walk it down with a screwdriver. And I'm sorry if you can't see this. This is... Oops, I almost had it there, and then there we go. So I apologize if you weren't able to see that. So I anchored to one side, I braced the screwdriver against the lip of the other, and I just kind of kept walking it down till it pushed that in. Okay, and then last step then is install that spool. And overall a nice reel. So this is the Bass Pro Extreme. I don't know if it's made by the same folks that make the USA reel, because I haven't had the USA reel apart either, but we gave you some tips on what to do if you do have a reel that is a store brand. I like that. Like it a lot. Nice reel. If you have a reel that's a store brand and you don't have access to schematics, we showed you kind of a sequence, a step-by-step process to go ahead and take these apart. Go take them for a test drive, make sure that they're all working and ready to go again, and kind of tune them up along the way. Take pictures, organize your workbench, have a parts tray in hand, and that usually is the key to success. So if you have any questions about this reel or comments, please leave them. I try to respond to all. If you have a reel like this and you're a little intimidated by the thought of taking it apart and doing what we just did here, well, then drop me a note. My business card is at the end there, because I do repair reels by mail and be happy to work on yours. And if you're thinking of buying one, well, you just saw the inside of this and how it works. So this is a pandemic project. We're in the middle of it right now. Hopefully life will return to normal sooner rather than later, but in the meantime, please stay well, stay safe, stay indoors, listen to the folks that know what they're doing here in terms of how to protect yourself from the virus, and stay watching. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.